Hey Slingers, thanks for tuning into another week of the Wordslinger podcast. I'm happy you're here. Now I'm talking to Colin Gardiner. He's the CPO of Outdoorsy. What's a CPO? Stick around and find that out. And we're going to be talking about writing from anywhere with an RV as your ultimate writing retreat. So stick around for that. This episode of the Wordslinger podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
I'm Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. I'm so glad you dropped in. This has been a interesting week. Now, for the past, we're going to say 3 weeks, because even though there have been times in the middle where she was here, my wife has been gone. She's been traveling to El Paso for her work. And that's left me here playing Bachelor for the past 3 weeks. And like I said, there's been a couple of days in there where she's been home, mostly just to do laundry and get herself rested a little before she has to get right back on an airplane back to El Paso. And now she's going to be traveling to Baton Rouge, I believe, in the next week. Now that's not quite as bad, but you know. It's still not home. And then I think the weekend she gets back, I start my little junket. I'm going to be first traveling to Indie Book Fest in Orlando. If you're going to be at Indie Book Fest 2018, swing on by. I'm going to be doing a couple of panels. I'm going to be doing a book signing. I got the books should be arriving actually pretty soon that I'm going to take with me. So I'll be selling some books there and doing a signing. I got an author table, which is great. But I'm also just speaking on behalf of Draft to Digital, just talking about the publishing industry, some information you may not know about. You, the Wordslinger audience, the Slingers, you may know about all this stuff, actually. thanks to being a listener. But it's going to be interesting, and now that just kicks off like 3 solid months of me traveling. I think my wife will also be traveling. Our poor little dog is going to have to, she's going to have to stay with the Rents, I think, the in-laws, and possibly even have to stay overnight at a kennel somewhere, which I'm not looking forward to. I may have to reach out to my network and see if anybody could take care of her for a week or two. That's neither here nor there. Now, today, I'm talking to Colin Gardiner. He's a CPO. He's the CPO of Outdoorsy. Outdoorsy.com is the site that Kara and I chose after a lot of research, but we chose Outdoorsy as the site for managing our RV rental. And that has been that's been a great resource for us. We've made quite a nice little profit off of renting out our RV. We rent it out. I bill it out as the ultimate writing retreat, which is the source of the name of this episode, by the way. But it is the ultimate writing retreat. I've written 3 bestsellers in that RV and worked on a couple more that didn't get completed, but didn't get completed while in the RV, I should say. But that RV has been it's been interesting. At times we've thought of it as a curse. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun living in it while we were on the road full time. It was a lot of fun traveling in it. I've taken it to conferences before, and so it's in some ways saved some overhead on a few events that I've attended. I took it and did book signings and conferences and things like that. And then we lived in it full time for a little over a year, while we traveled, and that was a great experience. But when we got off the road and when we decided we would get an apartment, it kind of just sat there for a while. It was in for some repairs, and it was there for like 9 months, which I think is ridiculous. And it's really put a bitter taste in my mouth for the people who were doing the repairs, people I thought I could rely on. But it sat there, and while it was there, they left the windows unblocked, so the driver's seat and passenger seat were dry rotted. So the leather, or I guess maybe it's faux leather, I'm not sure, but whatever is on those seats has been flaking off. I had to buy covers for those. The windshield wipers have been a problem. They finally got a recall on those. I got a recall on the step that broke. So, there's been little things that have gone wrong that made that feel like it was a nightmare. But what I've come to understand about it, what I've come to think about it, is that because of all these little things that went wrong, it taught me a lot and gave me some confidence. And I put my hands on the thing more often, and I know the machine better. I know when something's wrong. I know when something needs to be worked on, repaired, maintained, or whatever. And it's helped me in other areas of my life. So it's hard to look at the RV and say, well, what a nightmare, when it really wasn't. I mean, there have been things that went wrong, and it's scary because it's such an expensive vehicle, and you get intimidated. But now that I'm kind of past the intimidation, I'm looking at it and thinking, what a great investment we've made. It's not a great investment in terms of, you're not going to get a ton of ROI out of an RV. If you're thinking of it in terms of, I'm going to buy it and then I'll resell it later. Resale is horrible. It drops in value worse than just about anything else I've ever encountered. 140 grand for this house on wheels, and the first, we took it by and just kind of got an estimate on it within the first 2 years of owning it, and they only wanted to offer us like $70,000 for it, half its value lost in just 2 years. Now if I sold it outright, I could get much more, probably in the neighborhood of like 98,000 or something around those lines, depending on number of miles, and there's all kinds of factors in there. But you can see it's not a great investment if your idea is, I'm going to buy it and then I'm going to resell it. On the other hand, because of resources like Outdoorsy.com, we've actually turned this into a source of revenue. And this has been great. Now, there's some bugs I got to work out. One of which is I'm not always here to manage the rental. In other words, when someone wants to rent it, I got to be here to walk them through, do a walkthrough of the thing, make sure it's in good shape, make sure it's clean, get them out the door, get the paperwork signed and all that. So that requires my physical presence, and it might mean hiring someone. However, in this interview, Colin talks about some options that they're working on. And I'm very excited about this. Much more excited today than I was during the interview, actually, because now I've had some experience with renting it out. And, we're missing out on some money because of this. We're not going to be able to rent it over periods when we're going to be traveling, for example, because, it's there's no one here to do the stuff, right? So I have to turn down rentals that overlap with our travel. Unless we're traveling in the RV, which we're actually thinking about doing over the Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to take the RV, probably go to Salt Lake City as one destination, spend some time with our Kara's family there, and then branch out from there and go to other places while we have the time and the RV. So, there's all that to consider. Now this, if Outdoorsy does what it says it's going to do, and I have no reason to believe they won't, it looks like they're working on it. Now we've got an opportunity to have someone basically take the reins of the rental. They get maybe a cut, they get a percentage, maybe I just pay them outright. I don't know how it's going to work, but at this point I would have no problem giving someone some money to manage the RV for me. Because, by the way, I've done it myself and I know what to expect, and I know how this should go. And that's one of the biggest reasons to do something like this, I think. So that it's no more frightening and intimidating and scary than getting into buying and selling and renting houses, I think. If you're gonna do this, there is some risk. There's always risk. There's always overhead. There's always something you're gonna have to deal with, some headache. But if you can get past your worry and fear over that stuff, it opens up so many opportunities. Now, how does this help you as a writer? First, we're going to talk about this idea of using the RVs as the ultimate writing retreat. Get in an RV, go somewhere. You can literally. I like the idea of getting one of the vans, the conversion vans, and just going anywhere, just literally anywhere, because these things are self-contained. They often have generators. If they don't, some of them have systems that use the engine of the vehicle like a generator, like it'll start up when the batteries are low automatically, things like that. They have, little kitchenettes and bathrooms and, small showers and, a bed and, everything you'd need to go literally park anywhere, sit out and write amongst the mountains and the lakes and the beaches and, all the things God has created out there that are just so inspiring for your work. Go into the city, do whatever you got to do. It's a very romantic vision of the whole thing. There are challenges you'll have to deal with from time to time, but it's worth every minute of that, I think. So there is that, and then there is the idea of RVs as a revenue source, like what we're doing, And as an author, it's great to have multiple streams of income. It's great to have another source of income that isn't completely dependent on me. Now, right now, it is slightly dependent on me. I'm working on that. But it is fantastic to have yet another revenue stream. You know me, I've got several revenue streams. Trying to diversify more. Most of my revenue comes from the publishing world in some way. And that's all well and good, but I want to get outside of the publishing world and diversify and make sure I'm taken care of. So anyway, we're 11 minutes in. I did not mean for this to go that long, but we're going to hop into this interview with Colin Gardiner, and he's going to reveal to you what CPO means. And, that's not a big secret or anything. I've just never heard the term before. Maybe you haven't either. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around. And make sure you stick through the interview. We got some news and events on the other side, industry news that you're going to want to hear. And until then, enjoy this interview with Colin Gardiner. Hello, America. Thanks for tuning in for another Wordslinger podcast. Now, I'm actually chatting with, I'm going to tease him a little because it's official, Colin. This was the most reschedules. And Colin's a busy guy. I'm talking to Colin Gardiner. He's the Chief Product Officer of Outdoorsy. And we're going to get into what Outdoorsy is and how awesome it is in just a second. But I had to tease him right off the bat because I've had no other guests have had to reschedule as much as you. So you are a busy, busy man, man. I thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Well, I'm happy to be here. And promise I won't reschedule, mid-podcast.
Yeah. Mid-podcast, he's going to duck out. No, man, I completely understand. Things going on. You got a growing company there. Now, this is an Austin-based company. Is that right?
Yes. Most recently, we moved to Austin from San Francisco. We love it here. It's just got a great outdoor environment and the place that we wanted to build our business.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. Okay. I'll get into that. I don't want to leave people hanging on what Outdoorsy is. Why don't you give us a rundown on what Outdoorsy actually is and what you guys do?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to tell you. So Outdoorsy is a RV rental marketplace. It's where people go to rent from their peers, other professional, or so other people like RV owners that have an RV that's kind of not being used currently and they want to rent it out for other people to come use. And we're kind of the largest and most trusted marketplace. And what we really focus on is building a marketplace where people can, are verified and are able to come and be very certain about what they're going to rent. They have verified owners and verified renters, and we connect them in a way that makes for really safe and great experiences.
Yeah, I have to tell you the idea of renting out your RV, that's not new. This isn't entirely new. But I love the approach you guys have taken. It's much more innovative than RV rental I've seen in the past. And maybe there's not a lot of, channels for owners to rent out their RVs through a service. I'll be honest and say I haven't looked into that much. But when we started looking at it, we were very excited. We saw, you guys have ads on Facebook. I actually am friends with Joe and Kate Russo of We're the Russos. They have a whole YouTube channel. They talk you guys up. So when we were looking for what to do with our spare RV, the first thing we thought of was listing with you guys. So it's great service.
Yeah. And so you've listed, what kind of vehicle have you listed?
So we have a 38-foot Thor motor coach, and it's a house, man. It's a house on wheels. And we lived in it for a year while we did a whole, I went and did book signings and went to conventions and that sort of thing. So I'm building it out now as a mobile writer's retreat.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we see a lot of success for people that kind of pursue that kind of experiential angle, where it's not just renting the trailer, RV, motorhome, what have you. It's also kind of tailoring it so that it's matched to a place to go. In a lot of ways, it's a new medium for travel for people. It's kind of like this kind of third category of lodging that now coming online and becoming readily available. And people know they want to go try it, but they also need inspiration on where to go. And so as a brand, we really strive to provide that for people. Vision, if you go to our Instagram account, you'll see tons of kind of great imagery from our customers and just all the great things you can go do when you have the freedom of the road. So it's a really interesting asset class because unlike a hotel or a vacation rental where you're stationary in one spot, you can take your RV to all the great destinations. You go to the spot. And so you bring your lodging with you. And that just makes it a really interesting medium for travel.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It was great because, I am someone who is very much inspired by the environment in which I do the writing. And, we travel quite a bit by air, but there is something kind of interesting and that happens when you're traveling on the road, because you stop at all the little dots in between, whereas you would have hopped over all that. Now you're experiencing a world along the path. So it's an interesting experience. What really, why this space though? What brought Outdoorsy about?
Yeah. So, great question. I think the founding story behind Outdoorsy really comes back to this, the founders going cross country in an RV and really seeing the problem to be solved. Many people being underwater on this asset that they have, or it's sitting in their backyard, and really being able to bring that, the kind of an albatross or an anchor for them and making it actually a money maker for them. And so, the big piece there was kind of going across America, seeing how great of an experience it was, and going to experience the outdoors is kind of the last great American road trip, just kind of that ethos. But then also identifying that there was an asset out there that many people, have as a second home via mortgage, that is potentially, kind of holding them back, and being able to unlock that kind of that latent asset, and have it rented out and then become a kind of a revenue generating asset for them, whereby they can pay for their mortgage and things like that. And so there's a lot of financial freedom that came along with it.
Yeah. I mean, from the RV owner's perspective, it is kind of a godsend because we were struggling. I mean, we didn't know what to do because, we had trouble selling the RV and we really weren't all that keen on selling it in the first place. It was just one of those, we're not using it as often. It is, sucking up money each month just because it's an RV. But, this concept of renting it out, we were afraid of it at first, afraid of the very concept of it. But going in through Outdoorsy really was very helpful in comforting us, I guess, giving us a little more confidence in our ability to do this. How are you guys? I mean, tell us a little about the system, like how you protect both the RV owner and the people renting.
Yeah, so I think the key to all of this is insurance, right? And a lot of owners in general, kind of prior to kind of this concept of this on-demand insurance that we provided through our platform, didn't have a way to insure their rental, and so a lot of it was just kind of luck, and that scared a lot of people away from doing it. And it's certainly not, when you have this really prized asset that you're saying you didn't want to sell, but you're also scared about it getting wrecked. It was very clear to us that providing insurance so you could protect the asset was really key to the whole experience. And beyond insurance, insurance just isn't about protection. There is also the piece of like you want the right renter for your vehicle, and so for
Right.
us, it also meant making sure that the renters that were on our platform were verified. This means actually getting their driver's license and doing a DMV background check, making
Right.
sure that they don't have tons of outstanding, uh, any outstanding tickets, things like this, and making sure that the people that we're really connecting with are great. And that also goes on the owner side. We really want quality vehicles and owners that are invested in making a great experience for renters. And it's really about that connection point between those and connecting people that really want their asset, rented out, and then renters that really want to take this thing and have a great experience. And we'll take care of that asset. And so in that way, we really protect against it. And as always, we're iterating on that. We'll be introducing more and more ways to make sure that everyone has a great experience on the platform.
Yeah. I feel much more confident. We're still kind of just testing the waters, and it still does make us just a tiny bit nervous. We haven't had that first renter yet, so we're a little nervous, especially when it's like we're going to take the RV across the entire nation with 5 people in it. That one kind of didn't sit too well with us, but we're working on it.
Yeah, and I think as an owner, you need to do what makes you comfortable.
Right.
Making money is always a great thing, but it's also about the preserving of your asset.
Yeah.
I think that's why we really like to give the owners the option to pick the renters that make the most sense for them. But that also we set the expectation on the renter side that they have all the protections in place that they need to go drive this large vehicle or tow this large trailer around. And that on the renter side is providing things like roadside assistance, but also providing a lot of documentation and
Right.
help. 24/7 customer service, things like that, that really make it great for everyone, and so that everyone feels like we've got their back.
Yeah. Now on the renter's side, because I have a tendency, it's my nature as an entrepreneur. I have a tendency to only think of this as a resource for the entrepreneur with an asset, right? But as a renter, I like what you said earlier that those who are most successful tend to be the ones that focus on the experience. Do you guys do anything to promote the sort of experiential side of being an RV renter?
Yeah. So as we're innovating in the product side, but we have a large partnership with KOA. And,
Okay.
part of RVing is you need a place to park it at night. Unless you're just boondocking on your own. There's a piece of land that needs to have an RV parked on it. And, for us, we acknowledge full-heartedly that, where you park your RV is part of the experience and where you go. So, not to give away too much, but we'll be rolling out a lot of features for the renter side to kind of give them inspiration around what to do next. And
Right.
how to take a Sprinter van along the California coast, how to, take a trailer into the mountains in Colorado or what have you.
I volunteer as tribute to help you create programs aimed at riders and taking RVs out on the road and using them as riding spaces. You can hit me up anytime, man.
What I'm intrigued is what makes it such a great place for riding?
You know what it is? This is what I loved about it. I happen to have a very high-end RV. It's got all the amenities of home. So when I travel, it's very cush. But even when we had our little pop-up A-frame, A-liner camper, the appeal for me was to be able to get out there, have some comforts, have my coffee, have my booze, have my, a toilet nearby, that sort of thing. But then I can experience whatever the world has to offer me. I like being in the mountains. I like being in forests. I like being on lakes. I can choose to ride in those places, and it doesn't matter if there's a hotel nearby. None of that stuff matters. If I can get there with 4 wheels under me, then a minimum of 4 wheels under me, then I can experience it and I can write in that space. I can be in that space. So that's what appeals to me. And I think that would appeal to a lot of authors and creatives.
Yeah, and I think for us, Outdoorsy isn't just about the vehicle itself, right? It's about going outdoors and kind of being in the moment. Kind of the way to reconnect is to disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
That's really something that's a core tenet to our brand and what we care about as the company. is, and that's why I said experience is so important. It's really about the journey and where you're going with that vehicle. It's really your way to get there. So,
Yeah.
and we love, as part of our reviews, you can upload photos. We love seeing photos from all of our renters, going out to see what they're doing. And I know owners love to see all the places that their vehicle's been, and all the great experiences they have with them, because it's a hugely validating part of the experience for owners, right? Is that you have a really great renter that went out and made a really great life experience that they're never that. And I think, beyond just the money and, making sure people have a way to take this asset, which they otherwise couldn't make money, it's also about enriching other people's lives that wouldn't otherwise own an RV or be able to rent one.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's a great part of this is the appeal of this thing for me. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, by the way, because I feel like this is an untapped market of sorts, in that, I talk to thousands of authors through my role with this show, with Draft Digital. I'm always talking to authors. Authors are real keen on experience, and they, this is something that I hear a lot of people say, man, if I had the money, I would do it, and this is an open door for the opportunity to, I put this, I talked to one of your guys, Logan, earlier, but I put it as, I made the investment so you don't have to. You can hop in my RV or the RV of anyone on Outdoorsy.com and go check out, the Grand Canyon, go check out some national forests. You can be out in these places that are just, inspiration is just dripping off of every tree. So yeah, I think this is I really feel like authors in particular, you're going to find them very passionate about the indie author community. I think authors in particular could get a lot out of this service. So I'm willing to help you, man.
You know, on a point where it's people don't know that they can go do this. They I think
Right.
Instagram and some of these other social mediums are presenting more photos of kind of this van life movement and things like that. And that's just one, I think, window into it. But it is starting to become top of mind for people that, owning assets is not kind of the thing that everyone does anymore. No, and on top of that, not wanting to have to take care of it and things like that makes it really attractive for renters.
Right.
I personally, I don't have a space to park with. I'd have to find storage, things like that. And so I was really attracted to the opportunity at Outdoorsy, having worked in travel and the vacation rental market, and seeing that grow from very kind of a nascent market to now a really large part of the travel industry. And I really wanted to get it back to basics again on a new asset category in travel, and really help grow it. But for me, what was so nice, one of the best memories growing up for me is my family went to New Zealand and we rented an RV and toured around the North Island. That just in my mind etched forever. That was just the experience that I thought, if we could enable that for everyone,
yeah,
a huge win for me. And and it's not just the ones you can rent. In a lot of ways, from the bigger players, are just in some ways just large kind of box-ish ones. And what I really loved about Outdoorsy is it brought a lot of the character and a lot of these other vehicle types that weren't otherwise commercially viable, I would say, or enough of them around. They brought that kind of eclectic mix, unique inventory to the marketplace that didn't otherwise exist. And so, for my family, now that we have kids, we really like the trailer setup, whereas, it was just my wife and I, we'd be more into a Sprinter van or something like that. So I'd really like that there's an asset class for everyone. And stylistically, there's something, like Airstreams. Like a lot of people love the Airstreams and just the kind of the vintage feel to that. So like I said, I love that there's this eclectic inventory out there that now is rentable that otherwise wasn't. So.
Yeah, that's it gives you an opportunity. Also, let's just say you are looking to purchase one of these things. This is a great opportunity to try out different types, the different classes, see what would be comfortable for you. My wife and I, when we bought our RV, I wish we had thought to do it. You guys were around, so we could have used you to do this. But when we looked into renting RVs, man, it was ridiculously expensive through some of these other services. You guys are much more reasonable. I mean, how are you managing that? Like, how are you able to undercut those other services like that?
Yeah, you as an individual owner get to price your own asset. But one of the nice parts that all these different asset classes coming on is that it's not just these large drivable RVs anymore that are being rented out, like a very specific kind of set. Now there are a lot of campers, trailers, some of the smaller pop-up tent trailers that the pricing on those is just lower, right? You don't have an engine on it,
Right.
things like that. So maintenance costs and the overall cost of the vehicle itself is much lower, and so that's really kind of where we're opening up a lot of the market, I would say, especially in this trailer category that wasn't otherwise available. As you kind of see, the traditional RV rental market has been drivables.
That's true. Yeah.
Now that there's more of this trailer inventory, it allows people to use their own car as a tow vehicle and things like that. So it just opens up a lot more possibilities from that perspective. And it's like with kids, like putting car seats in an RV isn't always an easy thing to do,
Right.
or to do. And so for us, being able to use our SUV to tow a trailer to a campground or even get it delivered, that's another basically category that people don't really think about, is that people will deliver their RVs and trailers, to like campgrounds, things like that for them. So making it much more accessible for people to go outdoors. Don't have to stay in a tent if you don't want to. You can actually get a trailer delivered, things like that. So as far as the pricing goes, I come from a marketplace background as well, and so my background's in econ, so I've always have a love for pricing, and how marketplaces clear, and so proper pricing is a key part to all of it. And so we are working very diligently to provide all of our owners with more tools to price accurately and more intelligence around how to do that. I think that's a core part of running a really efficient marketplace, one where renters and owners can readily find something that they can match on. Great experiences.
Yeah, that's good. And that's been my experience so far. Now we haven't looked as closely at you guys for as renters because we're very concerned with getting our rig in shape and ready to go. And I've gotten 12 ideas since you and I have been talking about things I'm going to do to the RV. So to make the experience even better for renters. But we're definitely going to look into this, by the way, renting. One of the ideas I had was we were talking about taking our RV on a trip for Thanksgiving. And I think it would be much more fun especially if I can rent out our RV over that time, to just rent something else from you guys and try something else out.
Oh yeah. The ones that I always love to look at and want to do more with is in Hawaii. There's all these really cool vintage vans.
Yeah.
It's just so many great photos, parking on the beach, going surfing, things like that. And that really kind of, for me, tugs on the heart for what to go do and kind of that wanderlust spirit.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to get to drive to Hawaii. So
no, what's great is you fly there, you show up, and you can you have your accommodation on wheels. It's great. I mean, I think that's
fantastic. Unless you happen to be on an island with a volcano.
It's traffic.
Yeah. So all right. So what are some things? Let's attack this first from the RV owner side. What are some best practices that the RV owner should keep in mind if they come in on Outdoorsy?
Yeah, no, great question, and something that we constantly try to help owners with. But maybe this is maybe it's obvious, but maybe it's not. But great photos. I think we all know from booking travel ourselves, me personally not wanting to screw up many family vacations, that you really scrutinize what that hotel room looks like, what the vacation rental looks like, and RV people renting RVs are no different. They want to make sure that what they see is what they're going to get, and so for owners, whatever they can do to take really great photos, not just grainy photos on your phone, but potentially opting for a little bit more investment and getting really quality photos. And if people need help with that, they can definitely contact our customer service and we can help people with that. Past photos, writing a description, a really well-written description that isn't just a paragraph long, but is multiple paragraphs. It's very detailed about the vehicle, a little bit of the history, a little bit about the owners, what amenities it has, things like that. So it's just very obvious to people what they have. And then really filling out all the add-ons and things like that, where they can, offer to the renter, a bike. Float to, whatever the things that you have that you can add on there. But then also offering different packages, kind of like we talked about, Maybe it's, the one package is for, parking at a music festival, things like that. So there's always ways to kind of enhance your listing to make it even more attractive. And then lastly, I would say, always keeping your calendar up to date and having a really, competitive pricing. That's always lead to a great experience. You don't need to undercut everybody else, but you need to be kind of in the mix with your asset. Type.
Yeah. When looking at pricing, I mean, I hate competing on price because the experience is going to be different, depending on what you get. The people you deal with are going to be different. So, I do like to play up like the experience and maybe the amenities and the benefits and that sort of thing rather than trying to compete on price.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I think that, along ways, what we really want to encourage is a really great community within our marketplace. And I think that comes with trying to be as emphatic as possible with renters. I think a lot of these renters that come on are going to do it for their first time ever. And so, realizing that they, need some help when you give them the walkthrough and the kind of that exchange, really helping them understand it. No one wants to go on vacation and have a problem, right? Like that's just, no one wants that. One of the biggest ways that owners can help make sure that their RV comes back in, the best possible condition is also really spending the time with renters to show them how things work, provide them, the walkthrough, but also documentation on how their RV works, kind of the idiosyncrasies of that RV, and then also being, readily available when they're on their trip to kind of answer questions and things like that. I personally, it's always nice to have like a little gift basket or something in there, making you feel really welcome to the RV, and then a guest book, things like that, where it makes it really feel homey.
That's funny, a guest book. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised my wife didn't think of that.
And some of the, the added pluses too, just think if you're renting a home, it's very similar to this, right? Having, cutlery, silverware, plates, things like that, that people don't have to bring everything from home, and it makes it a much easier experience for them.
Yeah. All right. So now I want to flip it to the renter's side. And things the renter should think about, and what they should look for going in. Best practices, really, when it comes down to it. Because and really what I'm focused on here is, I know my listeners primarily independent authors. I want them to think of this as a getaway that can help them with their careers, but also something that they can do to relax and spend time with family. So what would you say? I mean, what are some best practices for people looking to rent an RV?
Yeah, I think, a big part of it is picking where you want to go and picking the right asset or the right type of vehicle for that. Best practice, if you're going to be picking, a towable versus a drivable, definitely on the towable side, best practice is to figure out if you have a tow package on your car, how much you can tow and what that hitch size might be. That's a big part of it. And then if you don't have a tow vehicle or something that can be towed, whether you want something delivered. And so in a lot of ways, best practices for that, if you're going to get something delivered, it's figuring out where you want it delivered, campground, things like that, and communicating very clearly to the owner what you're kind of hoping to do. And then as far as like on the drivable side, I think a lot of people are, if they're never driven an RV before, can be a little scared.
It's terrifying. It was terrifying for like the first 3 months that I owned the RV.
We just got a new car, and I can, I'm flashing back to when I, drove my first RV, these similar moments. But, I think, for the renter, best practice is just as they go to, communicate with the owner, tell them your story, tell them where you want to go and what you want to experience, and tell them, what you might be worried about, and make sure that they help you when you go to pick up that RV, like how to use it and how to use it right, and do a little test drive and things like that. That little extra bit of time will make everyone feel more comfortable, and also ultimately lead to a much better experience. We want a really positive kind of community element to all of this, and so making as tight a connection as possible between the renter and owner is really what we care about. And for a renter, as these are all, these owners are individuals having full lives. We always recommend that they try and kind of send requests to as many people as possible to kind of make sure that they find something that'll work for their trip.
Yeah.
And, on the renter side, I think one of the great things is instantly bookable inventory, where they can kind of look at everything themselves and they can kind of book it right away, and kind of have that peace of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still working out how all that works on our end, but
Always here to help.
Oh, good, man. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take you up on it.
Yeah. We have a great customer support team. People I've worked with for a long time, and they're always here to help. I think that's for owners. That's definitely one of the things that they may feel at times out there on their own, but we're always here. To talk. Like we have
Logan told me to hit you up because I mentioned to him that I'd love to come up and check out your offices in Austin sometime, man.
Yeah, we have a great office, great outdoor seating. Sorry. If it's not 100 degrees, it's great. It's great to be outside.
Yeah, I know. We're in Texas. I get it. I'm not that far. I'm a couple 100 miles away from you. I'm getting the same 100 degrees. Don't worry about it.
We love having people come by. We recently painted some really great murals on the outside of our building, kind of depicting a lot of RV scenery. And we have a lot of people coming in the front door saying, "Hey, I just listed on you guys. I just want to come in and say hi." And it's always really great to have owners come in and talk them through this and really help them be successful, because at the end of the day, that's how we're all successful, right?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we really tried to build our community for owners, and we are always working on it every day. And we really want there to be this safety net for people to get advice and help them figure out how to be really successful at this business. Because we see a lot of people graduating from just having one RV like yourself, having multiple and actually running business.
That's what we're aiming for. Yeah, we're thinking we might want to go that route.
Yeah, and so it always behooves us to help you. And like I said, we're always here to chat, and we really want you to be successful. So give us a call, email, chat, Facebook owner group, any of those mediums. We're always here. And like I said, we really want to build a great community that's, instills trust and safety long term. So
yeah. All right, man. Well, look, we're at time. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know it goes quick, doesn't it? So, all right. Where can people find out more about Outdoorsy?
Going to www.outdoorsy.com, the best place to go. We have great descriptions on the founding story and kind of why we started this business. And it's always inspiring to me to go back and read that. But yeah, outdoorsy.com is great. We just launched internationally in a number of markets as well. So you've got listeners.
Oh man,
really,
you're on the grow. I got a lot of New Zealand and Australian listeners. So you hitting those?
Those are just those markets, are super mature when it comes to RV rentals, and we're really excited to be expanding those places. And a lot of our renters and owners have pulled us there. A lot of people saying, "Hey, we want this inventory here. We want to go check this out." And so we've listened, and we're going after it.
That's fantastic, man. Yeah, and I got a lot of folks keep asking me to come to New Zealand. Nobody's offered to buy my airfare yet, but I've got plenty of places to stay, but I may have to rent an RV while I'm there, because I think that would be I personally think that'd be the most awesome way to check out New Zealand.
Like I said, when I grew up, we did an RV trip and sailing trip. North Island, sailing on the South Island, and I literally don't have any fonder memories than that trip.
My wife has a very similar experience. They spent a Christmas caravanning around New Zealand. Wow. And so she had a blast doing that as a kid. So now we're going to go recreate that at some point.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well, look, let's get you out of here. Everybody listening, thank you. First, let me say thank you, Colin, for being on the show, man. I know I teased you at the beginning, but I know you're incredibly busy. So thanks for taking the time.
No excuses. It's been my pleasure to be on the show. I'm really happy to have you on board as an owner. It's people like you that make the community great, and look forward to having more riders on the platform.
Yeah, we're gonna get them there. I'm gonna get them there. Every rider within the sound of my voice, you need to check out an RV.
We'll get them hooked up. So.
All right, we're gonna get a referral program in there so I can make a little coin off this. I'm just putting it out there.
Got that in place, so we'll definitely get that going.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Right now, you're probably hearing the groovy theme music. You may dance in place at will. Stick around for industry news, all the industry news you can handle, and probably some other cool stuff, too. I'll see you on the other side of that. And for now, Colin, thanks again for being on the show, man.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Hear your book the way it was meant to be heard. with a fully custom soundtrack based on your material. An album of music that perfectly fits your characters, your settings. Hear your book today. SonataInscribe.com.
Hey, I hope you got a lot out of that interview with Colin. If you haven't checked out Outdoorsy yet, please do. This has been a great resource for me, not just as someone renting an RV, but if you're looking for that retreat, if you're looking for a way to get out there and experience nature and inspire your writing, that sort of thing, explore new worlds, in a sense, new worlds and new civilizations, you're definitely going to want to check this out. It's like it's a great way to get out on the road, minimizing your overhead. You wouldn't have to buy an RV, see? So now let's jump right into the industry news. So I got some great stories for you this morning. Among others, let me just move this microphone up a little. Sorry. I wasn't hearing myself very well. First up, this is an interesting story. This is has some astounding numbers in it, but the AAP estimates U.S. book publishing industry generated $26 billion in revenue last year. Now, this is coming off of the Association of American Publishers, what they call their StatShot annual report. Not the most accurate report in the world. It doesn't necessarily factor in indie book income. So it's kind of a skewed result, but it does have some interesting numbers. It has one number in particular that I do want to focus on. I'll just read this from our good friend Nate Hoffelder and the Digital Reader. But the Association of American Publishers, AAP, issued its 2018 StatShot annual report today, which found, among other things, that the U.S. book publishing industry generated an estimated $26.23 billion in net revenue for 2017, representing 2.72 billion units, meaning books sold. Now, there's quite a bit here. It makes some claims that the nonfiction, first up, it says nonfiction for adults is on the rise, with a 5.4% increase in publisher revenue between 2016 and 2017. Now, that's probably a healthy number. A lot of people still get their nonfiction through traditional outlets, so they would have probably more accurate numbers on that. Where I think this does kind of stumble a little, it says that publisher revenue for adult fiction declined by negative 1.2% to 4.38 billion. And it says that from 2013 to 2017, this category saw only 1 year of revenue growth, which was in 2015. I think that number is probably inaccurate. I'm going to go ahead out and get out there on that statement because, and I only have anecdotal evidence for this, backed by the author earnings report. But from my experience, from the authors I speak with, the industry professionals I speak with, the fiction is on the rise for the indie publisher. So I think this number doesn't necessarily account for that growth. Now, the other number I thought was interesting here, and this one ties in directly with the stuff that Draft to Digital is doing with Findaway Voices, our partner there. I'm going to move this microphone one more time just to get that down a little. Sorry about that, folks. This is focused on the audiobook industry. It says downloaded audio remained the fastest growing format with 28.8% year-over-year growth from 2016 to 2017 and 146.2% growth over the past 5 years, being 2013 and 2017. Now, that's an astounding number, and what it does hint at is a great opportunity, particularly for indie authors who can own and control their work. And it opens up, it's a great segue into something I was going to mention anyway, which is that right now, through Draft to Digital, if you go into Findaway Voices through Draft to Digital right now, through, I believe, August 17th, I believe is the date. Yes, August 17th. If you go in through Draft to Digital, get your book into audio, or start producing audio, get a contract with a producer by that time, you can get a free final production hour of audio, meaning, if your final production hours were 10 hours for this book, you would only pay for 9, which can be pretty significant. So you might want to go check that out. Of course, if you go in through Draft to Digital, you don't pay the $49 admin fee. They're calling it something else now. I don't remember. But you don't pay the $49 fee per book. So all you have to do is mention the words 1 free hour in the questionnaire when you sign in through Draft to Digital, and you will get that hour free. So go check that out and get your audiobook going, because this is a growing, booming market. There's low competition and high demand. That's a magic formula every author is looking for. Next up, we've got this story. This story makes me want to stab people. Tor Books is now. Oh, by the way, I neglected to mention the URL for the previous story. So let me back up just a second. Go to bit.ly/157-billions, and you will find that previous story. Sorry about that, folks. Now on to Tor. Tor Books is now windowing library ebooks. Now this is a story that really irritates me. So I'll read from their not a press release, but the letter that they sent to libraries, to the public libraries. Our current analysis on e-lending indicates it is having a direct and adverse impact on retail ebook sales. Effective with July 2018 publications, all new titles from Tor Books will become available for library ebook distribution 4 months after their retail on-sale date, rather than the current program, which allows libraries to purchase titles on their retail on-sale date. All right, let's dig in on this. By the way, 4 months is the more generous estimate there. This documentation goes on to say that they could actually delay distribution to libraries up to 40 months. That is more than 3 years of a library waiting to purchase a book that the public might want to read. I have a real problem with this. I have a problem with it, and I'm also celebrating it. And here's why. First up, it is ridiculous to say that libraries are cannibalizing retail sales. There are two models right now. Now, Draft to Digital is now engaged with both these models, and you can do distribution this way. This is going to be fantastic. There is the one copy, one use model, which means that a library has to purchase a license to distribute that book, meaning that they can only distribute the number of books for which they have a license. So if you are an author or publisher and you sell a single license to a library buys a single license, that library can only loan out one copy of that book to its patrons, and has to wait for that book to come back. So 2 weeks later, or unless they recheck it out, 2 weeks later, the patron brings that book back and the next patron can check it out. So if you've got a waiting list of readers who might want to check out that book, it could, let's say 50 people. It could be years before the final person on that waiting list actually gets to read that book through the library. Okay? That's all logical. And the downside for the publisher at that point is that the library is only buying that one copy, but 50 people get to read it. Now, Draft to Digital has rolled out. Now, this isn't something we invented. It's already out there. We're just now incorporating it into our library model. It's called the cost per checkout model, CPC. And here's the idea. Rather than libraries having to pay for an individual license and being limited on, I apologize. I don't know if you heard that. My phone ringing like crazy. I thought I had everything blocked off. But rather than libraries buying a single license and only being able to loan the book out on that license, libraries get the opportunity to loan books out to an infinite number of patrons. And here's how it works. The author would receive 1/10 of their asking price for the book. So whatever you set your library price at, you'll get 1/10 of it. On the surface, that's sort of a what the hell kind of thing. 1/10 doesn't sound like a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. However, if for some reason you've had buzz about you and your work, let's say that you did an event at the library, you were featured in an article somewhere, you were or on maybe you were interviewed for a podcast or a television show. Somehow, some way, the public has gotten wind of you and your book, and now you've marketed. Okay, now they go to the library and they want to check it out. Well, those same 50 patrons could now check out your book at the same time. And you're getting 1/10 of your price. You're getting 10% of that book's price per patron, right? So now you can see where things start to add up. So rather than buying a single license and then you get that asking price for that book and then that's it, now you've got this perpetual income, as new people discover your book. Libraries are better able to take a risk, take a chance on your book, an untried author, untried book. They might be more willing to promote that book to their patrons because it doesn't cost them anything out of pocket. So you can see where that's a great model, and it boosts discoverability. And over time, you actually can make quite a bit more on a book than you would selling it in retail. So in a lot of ways, it's a superior model, right? So I say that to say this. Tor, a division of Macmillan Publishing, has access to the exact same model. So it is literally impossible for retail sales to be cannibalized by library patrons. Think about it. Here's the other side of that. You're a reader. You don't have disposable income to go buy new releases. You go to the library to check it out, and it's not there. You don't read that book. It's not like you say, I'm going to go buy it. If you didn't have the income for it in the first place, you're not going to go out and buy it. So no one is cannibalizing retail sales because those patrons aren't going to buy the book anyway. So you can see where this is irritating, honestly. It's ridiculous. It's just poorly thought out. Now, in addition to that, where I kind of celebrate this is that what it's doing is leaving a vacuum, a void for indie authors to fill. So if I go to the library hoping to check out the latest Tor science fiction author, Orson Scott Card is a Tor author, so I go to check out the latest Orson Scott Card book, and it's not going to be there for 4 to 40 months. But the latest Michael Anderle book is there. The latest Chris Fox book is there. Insert your name here. And it looks a lot like, what Orson Scott Card wrote. It's a similar theme, maybe a similar idea, or it's science fiction. It's something to fill the void, right? I'm going to go ahead and check that book out. And now that indie author gets that sale, and Tor gets nothing. Now, that doesn't block Tor from making that money later. It just delays them getting the money for 4 months or 40 months. In the meantime, that could end up boosting that new author's success. It increases their discoverability. Library patrons will check out a book, and they will read it and enjoy it, and then they will look for more books by that author, and then they will tell other people about that author, and some of those people are going to go out and buy a retail version of the book. So, sip of coffee there for the listeners. So, there you go. I think this is a ridiculous thing that Tor decided to do. Macmillan is, I know they've got smart people there, so maybe there's a strategy at work, but this is a ridiculous idea. It's offensive, is what it is. I don't know. I have very strong feelings about the public library. I actually think that the public library saved my life, literally saved my life in my early 20s. I was struggling with, I wasn't doing well. I was in a dark place in my life, and the library provided me someplace to go that I could afford to go because I had no money. It gave me books, videos, music, magazines and newspapers, access to job searches, access to community resources I didn't even know existed. So I'm very passionate about libraries. I'm not always the biggest fan of government, being involved in things and tax dollars going to services and that sort of thing. But this one is one that's very close to my heart. I can see an intrinsic return on investment for taxpayers. And I know people may or may not agree with me on my position on these things, but the public library has been amazing in my life and amazing in the lives of others. And so for the publishing industry to just put up the middle finger to these people, to us, the taxpayers, to the people who live in the United States, it's just offensive. So anyway, we'll call that my asinine story of the week. You can find more details on that at bit.ly/157-TOR, TOR, by the way. And maybe we should reach out and let Macmillan and Tor know just how stupid they are. Or maybe we should just sit here quietly and collect our money. I'm not really sure. Let's start a movement, folks. Okay, next up, and this one is our final story of the day. Amazon updates KDP rules to discourage book stuffing. Now, if you're not familiar with book stuffing, there's a lot of ways that this is defined, but one of the more popular book stuffing methods is for authors to take a series of books or short stories that have already been published numerous times, shove them into a book, and put some new content in the very back. And the goal here is for people to check out the new book, because it's got a new title, a new cover, everything, and discover that the story that they want to read is in the very back, so they have to go through all the content to get to it, which leads to these authors making more revenue from Amazon because of page reads. So I'll read you a little bit from this. And this specifically, now I'm reading this from Nate Hoffelder's digital reader, one of my favorite author news sites, by the way. Shout out to Nathan. So here's something he wrote on. He mentions Chance Carter, who's a known book stuffer who's just been banned from KU. He says their goal was to get their fans to click through each book to the end, thus collecting up to $15 for each reader. A 3,000-page limit times a half a cent per page is a nominal $15. But after all the public criticism, Amazon changed the rules to limit the duplicate content in KU, and then banned Chance Carter and other cheaters from the Kindle store. This is something that's been a long time coming. Now, here's the deal. Not every collection of books out there or stories out there violates Kindle's rules on this. What you have to do is label this stuff clearly. So, for example, you're going to want to put boxed set, bundle, collection, compilation, series. You're going to want to put that on the cover and in the metadata. You're going to want to list the stories and the books that are included in the metadata. You're going to want to make sure that when people pick up this book, they know beyond a reasonable doubt that this is a collection of existing work that they're getting into, that they're paying for, and that it is it's not, you're not cheating. Here's the rule: don't cheat Amazon. Don't try to game Amazon. Don't try to game one of the wealthiest software developers on the planet that has a super intelligent AI algorithm that scans for this kind of stuff. Don't try to cheat them. Seems like a fair enough way to approach work. I actually have series like compilations. Like, for example, I've got Light Years is my collection of sci-fi books, and I label it as my complete sci-fi library. So it is a collection of existing books, and you can get it for a bargain price. You can get it for like $10. I mean, it's cheap. Or you can check it out on KU. Now, do I benefit from the page reads? Well, if you read through all those books, yes, I do. But is this stuffing? Amazon may decide that it is. I don't think that it is, because I do label it clearly as a complete set. I put it up so that, because I was transitioning to writing thrillers, and I wanted people to be able to get that full library of my older work. I was planning to do the same thing with the thrillers after a time. So, but I need to go back and make sure that I'm abiding by the rules for KU, make sure that everything is aligned. And if it's not, I'll pull the book down. You know, that's life. So, anyway, well, that's it. That's it for this week's industry news. You'll find that story, by the way, at, let's pop on over to the notes. You can find that story at bit.ly/157-Amazon. And that wraps us up for this week's industry news. I hope you got something useful out of this episode of the Wordslinger podcast. It's been a good week, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. And the RV thing is just incredible to me. It's become an opportunity for so much growth in my life, revenue, exploration. So it's become a tool, and I think that's been the important shift in thinking for me. Instead of thinking of it as a financial burden or, maintenance burden or whatever, wherever my mind was taking it, I'm now looking at it as a growth tool, a multi-purpose growth tool. So anyway, go check out Outdoorsy.com. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. Stay cool. We got record heat out there right now. It's been like 105 here in the Houston area, and I'm hearing rumors of 115 in places like Arizona and some parts of California, especially with those areas near the forest fires, the wildfires. Man, take care of yourselves out there. Get someplace safe, someplace cool. Write some stuff in an air-conditioned cafe somewhere. That's how you can cool off for the day. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. I hope I see you all next week. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Wordslinger podcast. Now, you can support this show by visiting wordslingerpodcast.com. That's where you're going to find back episodes, books by me, and links to anything and everything Wordslinger. And be sure to subscribe to this show on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and anywhere else fine podcasts are sold. I'm Kevin Tomlinson. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Wordslinger.